right. Okay. Already. We are live. Okay. Hey, well, listen, go ahead on and tag and share. We are on all of our social media platforms and we are live. Okay, let's do this. So, Talithia, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Dropped my baby off for orientation today on Van Weekend also. Well, she's excited. She was excited. She's like, she's excited. I've been here for 2 years. It's been real great.
Okay, well, great. Okay, so Doc, how you feeling, man?
I'm doing great, man. Good.
Well, listen, man, everybody's up for the conversation, and I'm excited that we're here to talk about what I feel like is so important. I think all of us feel that way, and so we're gonna get it moving. Hey, those of you who are online, go ahead on and tag, share. Let's get everybody in. It's gonna be it's gonna be amazing right here on Hallelujah 95.3 FM.
It's my regular.
Want to say good afternoon and once again, welcome to, that's right, it's the Greg James Community Show. I want you to go ahead on and tag and share for those of you who are tuned in on all of our social media platforms. We are excited to be in the studio today, and certainly we are getting ready to talk about what we feel like is so important in this time and in this moment. Before we get going, let me introduce to you all who's in the studio. Everybody know who's here. Certainly we're grateful for Talithia Edwards, who has been such a major voice in our community, who has been engaging and empowering so many neighborhoods throughout the city of Tallahassee. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you for having me again. That's great.
Well, we're excited. I mean, you felt the need that this conversation had to happen, and certainly we're excited about it happening because it's dealing with something that in the last election cycle, we did not do a good job at.
No. Our voter turnout is depreciating each election.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, also joining us in the studio, I mean, certainly he is definitely a man that's on the move, definitely a man that's truly busy, engaging in the community. And you can't even put a price tag on the community work that he does, the community engagement that he does, the community gifts that he does. I mean, so we're certainly glad that he was able to carve out some time to be with us today. And when he do get a chance, he get a chance to host with us, none other than Attorney Bataki Akbar, president of NAACP. How you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks, Pastor James, for having me on here. It's always good to be back home.
Back home. Absolutely. And I think it's so important because you realize how important voting is, because this year the NAACP Freedom Fund is really talking about what? The ballot.
Let's give us our ballot. That's the topic this year for the Freedom Fund. We have Jamal Bryant come down.
Oh my God.
You know, he's an amazing speaker, very involved in just getting the youth out to vote. So we're excited about it this year.
Right. Well, listen, for those of you who are tuned in on all of our virtual platforms, go ahead on and tag and share, because we are really getting ready to have the conversation that's really going to call you to action, and action like never before. I think we've entitled this based on Miss Alicia Ray. My black job is to vote. And when you think about a black job, I mean, where do we, I mean, when you think about it and you think about voting, how important is that job?
It's an essential job, right? I think that we've recognized that
we feel our voices weaken because we're not necessarily seeing the results or feeling the material conditions changing for us. So we equate that to our voice and our vote not mattering, right? And when we have Alicia join us, she'll talk about this idea of curating my Black job is the vote, which came from a line in the debate that Trump, threw out that scare tactic that the Mexicans were taking all the Black jobs, right? And so really love this social movement that's happening around this bipartisan conversation of my Black job is to vote. Whatever you do, turn out so that, like Attorney Mutaki said before, that those who we are elected and who get in office know they can't ignore us whether we voted for them or not, right? Because we're going to show up and we're going to let our voice be heard.
Well, I mean, I think that Mataki, I want to get your perspective on my Black job is to vote, because, like you said, our vote has been taken for granted. I mean, they look at the numbers, they see who's voting, they see where the areas of concern are, and because we don't show up, then they have no presence in our areas. So, what does that really say to you today?
Exactly what it says. If we don't do our job, and our job is to show up, and not only to show up just, for identity politics, not only to show up just because it's been done, but to show up with the knowledge of the issues, to show up with the knowledge of the candidates, to show up and not, a lot of people like to identify the Black vote as if we all are like monolithic and only can vote one way or another way. But when we are conscious of what we're doing, if we're knowledgeable about what we're doing, what we're voting for, the issues that we're voting for, then those people who are in office, those people who are in specific seats, can be held accountable for all the promises that are made throughout the process. And if we don't show up, then there's no accountability. There's no reason for them to come to the South Side, no reason for them to come to Frenchtown, no reason to come to those quote unquote Black precincts or minority precincts when those minority precincts are showing up at 10% and 15% and 20%, when precincts on the North Side and other places are, 50, 60, 70%. When they show up, that's who they're going to pay attention to, because it makes sense as far as time goes and everything. So we need to show up.
We gotta show up. We gotta show up, and certainly one of the things that is key, even though there is a national election, tell me what matters the most right now.
Our
local election.
Oh yeah.
And in our local races, there's some vital issues. I mean, there are vital issues that are at hand. I mean, you had an amazing debate last evening concerning our school board, superintendent and school board members. And one of the things that was at the forefront of the discussion was our Black community, our Black children. Right?
Yeah, and that was the thing that I think a lot of people kind of take for granted, because we know it, but the schools, and this came out a lot, the school centers around everything, whether it's real estate, whether it's economic development, whether it's even healthcare, public safety, everything is surrounded by the school. So like if the schools aren't properly educated, or it's a bad school, then that neighborhood is not going to get an influx of economic development, because people are not going to move into that neighborhood because people don't want to go to that school. Business is not going to come to that neighborhood because there are no people there in order to go to the school. Same thing if the kids, and we know there's a direct relationship between suspensions and school discipline and those things that go on in the school. So if the schools aren't addressing those issues the correct way, then we see that pour over into our communities when it comes down to public safety. So all of those things came out. So it's important to have the right people in the forefront when it comes down to the school board.
Absolutely. And certainly we've got Alicia Ray, who's going to be joining us here shortly. But I left that meeting, I left that forum with a real eye-opener. And I hate to say this, but I really did, because just day before yesterday, I spent about 4 hours at my favorite place. Okay, the Waffle House.
Right.
And I was sitting there looking at the fact that here it is, the church is not the same, things are not the same. What must I do? How do I re-energize? How do I rejuvenate? What do I do to, create the attractiveness and get people more involved? And I heard something last night that really caught my attention, and it was about the logo. $100,000 for the logo. And it caught my attention because I heard a school board member say it's to attract. Then I heard, the superintendent say what he said. I left there saying, wow. And then we're going to move on. I left there saying my logo symbolizes a heartbeat, a lifeline. So if my people at my church don't embody what the logo says, I just got a logo that may get the attention of the crowd, but when they come into the building, they're confused because we're not matching what the logo says. So I said all that to say that as we move forward, we got to make sure that people are embodying what we are putting forth as our brand. And our Black brand is the Black Vote Matter.
Oh, it does.
And we're saying for the next 90 days, we're making a clarion call. Clergies are gathering.
That's right.
Pastor Wright is leading a group of clergies on Tuesday at Jerusalem to say the church got to get out and vote. The community got to get out and vote. And clergy got to leave the pulpit, the pew, and get to the pavement and make this call. Because this election, locally and nationally, will shift our city and our country.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Would you agree with that, attorney?
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. This is a unprecedented year. And so, believe it or not, I started some work actually a couple years back with a group across the nation that came together called the Black Collective to begin to think about and strategize what would be the strategy for 2024. There's no way we could have even imagined we would enter and walk into some spaces in this state and what we have in the last 4 years, right? But 2 years specifically, we've seen it get real tight, which should help us understand that our Black vote matters, right? It matters to get out, wherever you stand, whatever your belief is. But seeing the number of Black votes decline on both sides is disheartening. What it begins to say, we're disengaged, and therefore, like Attorney Muzaki said again, I don't have to deal with them because they ain't voting anyway. Right?
Wow.
Right? They get this full list super voters. I get everybody's stuff because I'm on the super voter list. I've never missed an election, and so you get everything. But those people who are not voting, they aren't getting anything, so they're even less engaged because they're not even seeing the political things pop up on their phone because they are not on these voter lists where people need to contact them and pay attention or sway them in a way or another, one way or another.
Wow. Well, I tell you, it's important that as we move forward, it's important that we continue to do what we're doing because as never before, our communities are hurting, our country is hurting. The issues that we see today, we've seen them before. We saw them in 2020. We saw them in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
At one of the most critical times in our history, we had a chance to elect a governor that looked like us. Do you feel we're at a place now where African Americans, Black people, have become disheartened, disencouraged, and have distanced themselves like never before from the voting process?
I think so. But I don't think it's as simple as saying because the idea of we don't think our voice counts. I think that's a part of it. I think the other part of it is we have so much other stuff to worry about, and having connected voting to those things that we're worried about. So, and it's interesting because if you look at the Republican messaging, the Republicans' messaging is going directly to the heart of the day-to-day lives of
Everyday people.
So their messaging is yeah, and so I don't care if you're in north side of Tallahassee or south side of Tallahassee, you're talking about the cost of groceries, the cost of clothes. You're talking about things that everyday people are thinking about. So that messaging hits home to, and that's how Trump is able to gather a base from that expands economic lines like no other, because the messaging that they have right now, like it or love it, like it or not, is going directly to those that resonate to everyday people. So I think the messaging, even I think the Democratic Party misses that, because it's constantly go out and vote because your ancestors died for it. Go out and vote because we've been through all of this. Go out and vote because your vote matters. We need to send a message why that vote matters. Just like we're talking about right now, why does the superintendent matter? Why do your school board members matter? Why does your city commissioner matter? Why does your county commissioner matter? And it's up to people like us, it's up to the clergy, it's up to people that's really paying attention to send that message home, because everybody just don't have time to engage, or to be a part of that conversation.
And I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna bring Alicia in. I'm gonna say this too, because I think you said something. People are at a point to say, I don't care how much you know, let me know that you really care.
That's right.
And the message, I left there, it was my first time ever hearing this guy, Jeremy. I don't know his last name. He's running for school board. Rogers. But I left there impressed with him. You know why? His message was clear. He didn't pretend that he had all the answers. He was very transparent. Well, I don't know how we would deal with that, but I'm open to figure out what we need to do. People want to know that you're clear and you're We're tired of the fluff. The message matters. And Republicans get that narrative. We're missing it. Can you, let's bring on Alicia. I tell you, Alicia, we've had you waiting for a while, but we're about to bring you in because, we want to talk a little bit about My Black Job is to Vote, and then we're going to get back right into, so let's bring on, talk about a little bit about Alicia.
Yeah, so Alicia and I, we go back to college days. And so we're now both wives and mothers and doing our thing in different states, but still remain very close. She's a communication guru, artist, all these things. I'll let her talk about herself. But we back, things and ideas off of each other. And so she told me about this social movement that she and her husband has created. They curated My Black Job is to Vote. And I don't want to do it a disjustice, a disservice. So let's bring on Alethea Ray and Brandon Ray to talk about My Black Job is to Vote.
Welcome. Well, we're delighted to have you. Let's talk a little bit about the birthing of the My Black Job is to Vote. Wow. So, Brandon, let me ask you this question, and some of our listeners on all of our virtual platforms are having a little trouble hearing, so we're going to have to figure out how we can do this again. But let me ask you this question: what do you feel is going to be the key this year to ensure that our Black vote turns out like never before? When President Obama ran for office, it was Black males turning out in record numbers. What do you see, you and your wife, what do you see now may be the key to us getting the Black vote out? Well, amen. Wow. Well, I mean, one of the things that I'm going to say is that we're having a little trouble. A lot of our virtual platforms are having trouble hearing. So we're going to have to figure out how we can do this. How we're going to figure out how we're going to have to bring them back in because the sound is kind of muffled. But we did hear, I think, some of the important things that Brandon said and Alicia said. Messaging. It goes back to messaging, and it goes back to us being able to inform and engage our people. Do we have enough time to do that? Do we have enough time to create the motivation? Do we have enough time to put the fire under the feet of our people to get to the polls like never before? Do we have enough time to do it?
Definitely. I mean, we have 30 days to our local primary election, which could be the deciding factor in some of our local elections. And we have about 90 days, 100 days to get to the general presidential election in November. All we have to do is have a made up mind. That don't take but a second. Am I not? Am I wrong? It just takes a second to decide that we're gonna have a made up mind. I saw quickly how people responded when the president said, "I am withdrawing my candidacy," and we was like, we were all right with that. I was like, you know what this means? Like, this is not a thing. Don't get me wrong. The immediate support for Kamala Harris and all of us wanting to immediately react is exactly the point that I think we're making about emotionalism, right? That we have to begin to be sober-minded in how we think. And I'm not talking about who we support. I'm talking about what we do and how we do it. Because as a party, we have literally kicked ourselves in the knee. What party has ever forced? Now I'm saying they forced this man out. You can say what you want.
You really feel they have? They did?
They forced Biden. Don't get me wrong, because everybody jumping on me. He's sick. He did.
So you're saying, okay,
we got a democracy. Okay, we do not force our current sitting president out of his candidacy. We don't do it, but we did.
Unless it's necessary.
Unless it's necessary. But is it necessary in the way we saw it done, right? Like there could have been, and I don't even want to take us off of voting because that's a whole nother conversation.
But that's going to either impact voting or it's going to affect voting.
Right.
So it has with it a weight.
Yeah.
How it was done, when it was done, and for those who are questioning whether or not I want to vote, that gives them an excuse. I don't like how they did it. And for us, the question is, and this is just my humble opinion, we vote, but what do black people get out of voting? What do they do for us? Okay, so your thoughts, attorney.
And that's again. I think we all can sit here and go down a list of a lot of things that why voting matters. Why, the impact that it has on our communities. And we can even go out and take people on the tour of, our vote, turned into this, or our vote turned into that, like in our own communities, from Bond to Frenchtown. So I think us, like, as far as like the echo chamber, that's the people that's paying attention is important, but the majority of the people are not paying attention.
Right.
And so I think, I love the idea of the clergy and everybody getting together and saying boots on the ground, we're going out, but it can't just be go vote, go vote, go vote, go vote. Go vote because these things.
That's right.
Go vote, and Talitha and I have talked a lot about this off the record, but here is our agenda. Here are the things that we would like to see. And so we're going to support you this time. And in 4 years or 2 years, whatever race you got, we're going to follow up with you about these things that we would like to see. And if we don't see it, then we are going to replace you with all force. Right. And then at that point, I think that type of engagement will keep the next generation coming. Because, every 4 years, that's a whole slew of people that's never voted before.
Right.
And they want to know, okay, what am I voting for? And us as, I think we're almost the elders at this point, need to take control of that and show it. And Tallahassee is so unique. And some people have figured out how unique it is. When I say Tallahassee is so unique because there is a black vote, block vote of about 30%. Mm-hmm. And so with it being a block vote about 30%, we literally control every single seat if we figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at some point we did figure it out. And when you looked around, you had Mayor Marks, you had Mayor Gillum, you had, all these seats on the city commission. We started getting seats on the school board. We even started getting black judges. We had black judges for a while. Circuit court judges, Barbara Hobbs.
I think she was the first
of the first elected.
She
was the sister. Then we had Tiffany Baker, the youngest. Yeah. So we started realizing our power. Other people also started realizing our power and say, how can we break up this block?
Yeah.
And from both ends.
Wow.
So we got some folks pulling on this end, we got some folks pulling on this end, and all of a sudden we don't have that 30% block anymore.
Yes.
Which we can lose stuff as a consequence.
Wow.
But the problem is us because we didn't have our agenda. So it wouldn't matter where you pull from if we had our agenda, what we wanted to see, and what we wanted to do, and our candidates will speak to that.
Okay,
That's right.
great. And I think that the key to that, and Talitha, you can pitch in on this, because I think Mataki said something that is key. We don't have an agenda, but there are people who have an agenda for us.
Definitely.
And we don't even know that they got an agenda for us until the agenda has been passed, and now we're a part of it. And how did this happen?
Oh, but they show up and they're louder than us, right? About issues that are affecting us. Whoa. Do you live on my block? Can you throw a rock from your house to mine? Like asking those serious questions about, and don't get me wrong, we need allies in all the work that we do. I'm not trying to ice anybody out, but I'm talking about ultra passionate people who are passionate about issues that affect me directly, but you ain't asking me how they affect me, right? You just saying, we don't need this, you don't need this, you should want better, right? How do you know what I want? And Attorney Akbar made a very great point about breaking up that 30%.
Wow.
See,
Yeah.
we play checkers, they play chess.
Yes.
They watch very clearly at how we move and what we do, right? The big isolator of all of us, right, is the establishment versus the outside. Yeah, we work the same thing. We speak the same language. Put us in different rooms, we gonna say the same thing.
Nothing's gonna change.
No, because we are speaking the same language. But what happened is exactly what Attorney Mataki said, was that most people are disengaged. They know nothing of what's going on. We're in the know and we're hearing it. We know some background, some foreground, we know all of this, right? And what makes it hard, or what it makes it easier for those who want to divide us and break up that 30%, is to pit us against each other personality-wise. It ain't even
wait,
about
wait.
the same thing. It's
Personality.
Oh yeah.
Put the personalities.
Pit us against personality. Literally, which is why I am all for a concrete agenda. I ain't gotta argue with you. Is this the good for the common good? I may have my personal thing that I'm gonna work on in my personal area.
But is this good for everybody? And
Exactly.
if this is good for everybody, then we all marching
To the
same music.
Right. Pull that out. It's not on the agenda. It's not. The agenda has not shifted because we have not gotten what we need out this week.
And I remember this, Mataki. It's been this is when Earl's Kitchen was not renovated. It was probably just getting going. We sat and we talked about the fact that we may have 10 people running for office in our community, and you got a right to run. But why not have a committee to say, let's look at who's running and see who would be best for us to rally behind, so we won't split, divide, and get defeated.
That's what it is with civil rights. It was not you. You want to do what? No. Let's sit down, baby. Who is the person most valuable and effective in this moment, right? And if it's not, you might be qualified, and it's your democratic right to vote. But because we don't control the resources, or we are not in the majority of power holding, we have to be strategic with what we do. And I went back and started reading Why We Can't Wait. Let me tell you something. The strategy is all through that stuff, okay? And I started going back to reading these pieces because they were effective. And I'm reading Dr. King writing about the backdoor meetings of them saying, you want to run? I'm sorry, it's just not your time. Wait a while, right? We may give you a space on the agenda to speak so people know your name and know your passion, but this is who we're going with, right? And you will be quiet because we're going to push this person because we got these things to get done.
And you're up next.
Then you're next.
Yeah.
Now we got a bench.
Yeah.
And can you think of 5 people right now that can run for mayor in 2 years? Can you think of 5 people right now that can run for city commission?
No.
Anything from our community, exactly. So we're not even building a bench, and that strategy would be great. But it starts with, these are the things we want. These are the people we think can go forward and push it. And now we got a lineup. So every 4 years we got somebody that we pushing, and the youth is involved. Every from it ranges, and it's not gatekeeping.
No.
So saying it's not your turn is not gatekeeping.
Right.
Saying it's not
Wow,
your turn,
man, I like that.
we got something that we working on. Hold up,
So we don't do that, but they do that.
You know who's going to run. I've been in conversations that has been said, well, after this person is done, this person is done, literally. So And I'm not mad at that.
No.
I clearly learn from these kind of strategies, and I see my own community, which I'm passionate about. I can go here, I go to South Africa. I'm gonna find myself in the same place because this is what I'm drawn to, this is what I'm called to. But I want us to be more effective. I want us also, which we didn't because we couldn't hear Alicia and Brandon really good, is to talk about the civic engagement piece of their social movement, which is to bring the civic engagement really tutorials and educational programs in local communities so that we're having these bit of a classes. We wake up and we got opinions and we all of a sudden experts. Once again, if we go back to the book that was being created during the civil rights, they had class. You did not attend class, you did not protest, you did not speak, you did not do it. You might go wave a sign because you ain't saying nothing. But you were not authorized if you had not had a bit of a training on where the people in the movement, the community needed to go.
Right.
Exactly right.
Wow. Well, listen, for those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking with some of our strong voices for change. And certainly this is a time where we're not singing solo, we're singing as a choir. And there's no lead singer. We're doing it all in harmony. And we're delighted to have with us always Talitha Edwards, who does what she does, not because she get paid for it, because she can't get paid for the work that she do. I mean, she gets a little something, but the work that she does, you can't pay for it. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And certainly we thank God for one of our community advocates, attorneys, who has made his office residence in the heart of the community, who is saying that this is where I'm at, I'm here. And his voice has been one that has been advocating constantly for those who have no voice. And certainly we're gathering for the next 60, 90 days to encourage. Clergies are gathering. Thank God for Pastor Wright. Thank God for Dr. R.B. Holmes and so many others who are gathering to say, as never before, the clergy got to call the congregation to go pull the lever at the ballot. I want to go back to something that you said, attorney, and I want to horn in on this because our local election is important. Our national election is important, but this local election can shift. It can shift everything concerning our city, concerning our county, and even concerning our schools.
Yeah.
How incumbent, how important is it for people not to vote with their emotions, but to vote with the educational knowledge that they need?
It's extremely important, especially locally. And I think that's one race that we really, really need to do what we're talking about here as far as like the agenda. Because I think part of the problem with some of the people who are in those seats don't get the full support of the community.
Right.
To even like step out on issues that might not be popular or might not, be establishment type of issues, but to understand if I say, hey, maybe law enforcement didn't do the right thing in this situation, or maybe we need to look at other ways that policing is done in the city. If the northeast side comes down on them, they know the south side of Frenchtown and these people who are pushing this Black agenda, because it's a part of our agenda, they're going to support them and they're going to have that 30%, no matter what the other side is saying.
Right.
That if they lose a bit of this money over here, next time they run, they're going to get some money over here. So we as a community, so I think there's a fear somewhat of some of the people who are in those seats who look like us that, oh, I got to straddle this fence. I'm not sure if I can take this position because it might pull away from something over here because they're not sure that they have the support.
Wow.
They meet with us. They know they don't have
They can't say, and you watch them and you like, you feel so bad for them because you know how they believe in their heart, but while you got the cameras on this side, to stay, and that's not way politics should be, and it's not the way politics should be. I have my I have my ideas of what, like in each race, right? I'm weighing not just what my personal, because I hear people say, well, what has he done? What has she done? What qualifies? if we are measuring the success or the effectiveness of our elected officials based on our personal agenda and not the collective agenda, we will always be either looking for a new person because I don't think you've done anything, or pointing a finger to say you don't deserve my vote, so I won't vote because I don't understand what that collective agenda is, right? Like I'll say this, and I'm not swaying anyway. I'm just talking to Talitha's opinion. I can quote me on my own words. When I think about the importance of the superintendent race specifically, I know some of the projects that are online that are pertinent to my community. Okay, that I need somebody in that seat who understands what they are, who knows how to continue to move it, and then produce what's needed to keep it sustained, right? Like that's my own personal thing, right? And so I'm not telling anybody what to do, but those are ways I measure. I do. You told me it's gonna do this. Did you do that? Did you do that? What you got left on this list to do, and is that in the process, which will be interrupted if another person, right? Like I measure that. That's an intellectual way to be a voter and to be a supporter. But I don't see a lot of us actually do that, and I think that that's an important way. Again, I'm not swaying anybody. It's my own personal thought process, but it is a process that I think works, and it keeps us out of our emotions, right?
And you know what? And I like that. And I think that is key. And I think collectively, if we were as a group,
Right.
collectively
Right.
being able to sit down to say, okay, let's weigh out whoever.
Right.
My biggest pet peeve is don't string me
Oh,
along
that's right.
and
That's
playing with me.
exactly right. A lot gets you.
Yeah, don't do that to
supported
me.
from
Yeah,
real
don't do that to me.
Yeah.
And especially when I'm out here and I see what some of the needs are. And I'm telling you about what some of the needs are. And you're telling me to meet, to have another meeting,
Yeah.
to have another meeting just to string along. And then you're diverting what I'm saying needs to happen in the community that I live, because I'm hanging out with Bobo now.
That's right.
I see them at the corner store. I
That's
walk
right.
down there and talk to them.
That's right.
I know what they're talking about.
That's
I know why they hustling. They know they got a chance of going to jail,
Yeah.
but they'll take that chance because nothing else is available.
That's exactly.
So don't tell me that, yeah, Pastor, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. You string me along. I spend money hiring consultants to
Right.
get what I think needs to be brought to your attention to meet your expectations, not mine, because I know what they need.
Right.
They don't need the data.
That's right. They just need the money to do work.
You need the data.
Yeah.
They don't need that. So perfect. And I think our community engagement for this election cycle is going to be great. But I think, Mataki, greater than all of that, we have to do what we talked about, and that's galvanizing at least 300 soldiers that's going to be going door to door, encouraging people, get out the vote.
And I want to say this because you talked about, it's a time now. Do we have time? Literally, just posting this has activated people who have called and said, listen, I don't do the work y'all do. I don't even know about what y'all do. But I want to give rise to people who want to go to the polls. I got chills on that. This is a regular person I've never, engaged in, and wouldn't consider what we consider a community leader in this way. But that's the kind of energy we want. The event on the 15th, give me the ballot, right? This social movement of my Black job is to vote, the galvanizing of the clergy. We want that energy to permeate so in this city and in this state and in this nation that people will want to figure out what do I need to do. And I'm telling you, when she texted me, I was like, girl, yeah, this, let's sit down, we can organize it. And she's willing on her own dime to get people to the polls, y'all. It's gonna take all of that.
It's going to take all of that. And I think, I mean, when this morning when I text both of you all, I'm like, the supervisor from the television station called to say, hey, we want to do a story on this. I think, little do we know, people are watching more than we think they're watching.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And they're talking way more than we're hearing. So I know, for those of you who are listening to the broadcast, I know you probably feel your vote doesn't matter. I know you're probably saying that no one's respecting my vote. I know what you're saying. They're going to do what they want to do. But this is one season. This is one moment that we as never before got to get out of.
Yeah.
And we've got efforts to create the opportunity. The NAACP is having the Freedom Fund
Yes.
dinner.
Mhm.
Listen, today we need to sell about 10 tables. We need to fill the place up. Everybody needs to be there. We need to fill, because this is just another part of us climaxing to get the word out. We got 10 days left before the election when it happens?
Yeah, we have 5 days.
5 days left.
Right before the election. I mean, it should be the rallying cry. Like, hey, if you haven't already early voted, get out there. If you need a ride, let somebody in this room know that you need a ride.
Yeah.
To really get out there. And again, like once we do it in August, we have to do it again. And that's going to be just as important. But most of our local elections, I think, will be decided in August.
Yeah. And so for those of you who are listening to the broadcast, listen to what I need to happen today. 10 tables. Those tickets are $75. That's 8 people at that table. That's $600. Tables are $7. I don't know what it is, but just do this. How do they get in touch with somebody? We need to get this done today. We need to fill the Civic Center up.
And it don't have to be leaders who are already leading. Get with your friends. Bring people, just as Attorney Mutaki said, and I'm going to say that this is our pep rally.
Absolutely.
So everybody need to be at the pep rally.
Everybody.
That's why when we get the preseason games, right?
Everybody.
We go there. This is our pep rally. I think I'm going to go get me some shakers, because that's the spirit I'm going to be in.
Because that's what we need. And so who do they need to contact?
NAACP Tallahassee.org. NAACP Tallahassee.org. Just click on the menu. You'll go to the 2024 Freedom Fund. You can buy your tickets right there online.
So let's get it done. NAACP.org. Tallahassee.org. Listen, let's get it done. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Let's show up like never before. You all have an amazing speaker.
Oh, yeah.
An amazing speaker.
And he speaks to the issues. We think it's important, not to tell people who to vote for or how to vote, but like we said, the importance is that if people, especially after August, if they look at those poll numbers in August, the people that's going into November, and they look in August, they're like, wow, it was a 40%, 50%, turnout in the Black community. We better pay attention to them. The conversation is going to change, and not only for for the November election, but then in 2 years, after that, they're going to say they're turning out, and it's going to be a completely different conversation that can really speak to our issue.
Right. So once again, that's Pastor Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant. He's the keynote speaker for the August 15th. What we gonna call it? We calling it the pep rally. The pep rally. It's the pep rally. So you need to get your plans to get there, and we're excited about you. The information has been posted. Thank you, Talithia, for posting that.
Well, that was a resource. That was another resource.
Okay.
Yeah, because we dropping resources.
Okay.
I was talking about local stuff.
Okay, thank you. The website is posted, so go ahead on and certainly let me give a big shout out to Pastor Bishop Lamar Simmons. He's already called me to say, hey, put me down. I'm there. He wanted to be here today, but he's in Dothan. He's listening, and so I want to give a big shout out to him. Certainly want to give a big shout out to Thaddeus Bruce. He made it known, put me there. Christy Henry put me there. Talithia put me there. So we're excited about those who've already said. Brother Minister Michael Huggins, he said, put me there. So we're excited about those who've already reached out to me from last week to say, hey, put me there. I'm there. But listen, we are still looking for about 7-8 more tables to be sold for our faith leaders and community leaders. So let's go. It's the big pep rally. Now I want to ask this of both of you all, because when we look at our community, and as we kind of like wrap it up, because this is just the kickoff to what we're going to be doing for the next almost 30 days, because we've got a lot of work to do. How important is it for clergies to be involved?
Do I even have to?
Yes, you have to, because we got clergies that are listening, and many of them I speak to, they say, well, Pastor, that's your thing, that ain't my thing. You out there, that ain't me. I'm doing something else. How important is it?
I think it's super important for clergy to be the first line of defense for education, right? Because they have a captive audience. God has already given them influence and position from the pulpit, right? And so I'm not talking about influence to sway you one way or another for a candidate, but I mean to understand it civically, right? This is a part of our duty if we're talking about community and the least, the lost, the last, and all of these particular things. It is the clergy's job to corral, right? That is where we definitely in our community, we look to the preachers to tell us, give me some direction. I should be, as a community leader and organizer, I should be taking a lot of my direction from the church because they're hearing the needs of the people closer, right? And then we're activating that on the ground. So it's definitely critical.
So this is not only a time to shift in our voices to vote, but it's just a time for us to shift our roles so that we can be actively engaging. You said something that powerful. You should, as a community leader, you should be taking your directions and sitting at the table,
right,
with leaders, faith leaders.
Right. I think it's a difference because I get it. Right? There's a responsibility that I believe clergy has to the cloth that doesn't always align with the worldview of politics, right? So there's a separation there. But as far as educating the people and equipping them, whether it's to know how to pray or to know how to activate in a way and to understand not just, theoretically and from a religious perspective, God gonna take care of us, but how do we put our faith into action in a way that moves the needle for all of us, right? I think that there's a responsibility in that. You don't have to be called to come out your pulpit to join the political circle, but you definitely have a responsibility to educate the people on what should be done.
Yeah, and I think we can look at Reverend Holmes as a prime example. He has for years, and no matter if he's Republican, Independent, Democrat, whatever. He said, go out and vote. He never told anybody to be a Republican, never told anybody to be an independent. He always said, like, this is important to move our community forward. And I think he's a prime example of, like, if you were going to run for office, you had to go through Bethel Baptist. If you were going to do anything, you had to have a conversation and sit down with them. And he had the pulse of the community. And imagine if every single church, every single candidate, I got to go through this church. I got to go talk to this pastor. I got to go talk to these people. And these pastors, they should also have the pulse of the community and speaking, and again, like if we took control in that manner and us as a community is connected at least enough to have that agenda, to have those conversations, then I think it goes a long, long way. And not just, like I said, not just one avenue, but you got to go through all these avenues. Like we like a mob.
Right, absolutely.
that's the clergy.
Absolutely. And I like what you just said, and we're running out of time, but I like what you just said because I feel like that's so vital. And I'm glad that you all were able to share this because I want all of those faith leaders who are listening to know that you matter in this movement. I mean, true enough, you may have the ministry of feeding the homeless and clothing, but you matter in this movement. And just using Dr. Holmes as a model, the work that he does, I mean, at the end of the day, it's benefiting the community. And you don't get to do that unless you understand the power that is within your congregation and the power that God has given you to be a voice for the people you serve. I made it my business a long time ago to meet with him and say, hey, man, I want you to mentor me. I could easily have stood off and said, who he think he is and what he doing this for and what he doing that for. But when I understood the dynamics of how he was making pathways clear for men like me, for opportunities for people in the neighborhood, then I want to know, how do I do what you're doing to continue to empower the people that we serve?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we're going to move the needle, we got to glean from each other.
That's right.
We got to glean from Talitha. We got to glean from Mataka. We got to glean from those who are doing it. We cannot allow the spirit of jealousy to stop us. And we cannot allow that spirit to cause us to fight each other because they are already fighting us.
And know how to know how to tuck your personal opinions away. There's been many times that I will come to Musaki and say, I don't agree with that. But I'm saying that to him. When we go out here together, we standing together, right? Like that's my first. Like, y'all, let me just tell you how I feel and get off my chest. But that's private because we understand when people are watching, when God has placed you in a position that people value your opinion or you have influence, you have to be careful with your voice. You just really do. And I'm very, very careful. Like when everybody, took the I support, come on, and they went, I was feeling grieved because to me, that was a disappointment that Biden stepped down. I had to recover from that. So instead of immediately making an emotional thing, I put one of my pictures from South Africa saying, I reserve the right to leave. And that was a way for me to check my emotions, And I think that if we get into that, take the spirit of what you just said, that each and every one of us has a role, small churches, big churches, personality, no personality, and we show up, watch what we do together. And we can say, we did that.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, we've got about 36, 40 seconds left. Closing remarks.
I just want to reiterate what you said. Like what we're saying today doesn't mean that we all have to agree. We don't all have to say kumbaya and back the same person, but we back the same issues. And the main issues is we want safety in our communities. We want economic development in our communities. And we want to have a voice in that seat at the table. And we're bringing our own chair.
Oh, wow, I like that.
When we show up to vote, that's chair. Got to show up.
Wow, last 30 seconds.
And kudos to us and the community and everybody who is willing to get out there and have this tough conversation about voting, to the NAACP for hosting the forums and now having the pet rally. If y'all don't order pom-poms, y'all better come on the energy I'm coming. But and Pastor Greg for being able to shift each time in your show to talk about what's pertinent and what's important. One of the things I will add, because I know local elections can get cumbersome when we think about every day, but if you want to be involved and keep your energy up, there's a Florida Women's Vote Coalition. They're having a monthly call. It's tonight at 8 p.m. You can find that online. There's the super majority that is training women in politics to be active and to activate in their own spaces. There's so many ways to get involved and to get engaged, right? So we're here locally, and I believe the first thing is to be in your backyard. But if you are overwhelmed with these politics and you don't want to get involved, I want you to vote locally. But there are some national and some statewide movements that are happening that will help, bring the good spirits to you so you can keep the work going.
Wow. Well, listen, I want to thank all of you for tuning in, those of you who are on all of our virtual platforms. And I just was sitting here listening to you and Mataki. And I'm always sitting, I'm listening, and then there are certain things that drop in my mindset. So I'm thinking that one day soon, I don't know when, maybe before we get ready for something big, we're going to be gathering somewhere, and it's going to be our time to just sit, chat, and engage. It may be at the TNL Center. We may have to rent that out and just come and talk politics.
Put the whiteboards
up. Yeah, let's talk about it, because at the end of the day, we want to move uniformly. We want to move in unity, and we want to move with a clear voice. Hey, listen, it's been an amazing show. Thank all of you for tuning in. Certainly want to thank Alicia Ray and her husband, Brandon. Certainly, we apologize for the sound, but we got to figure out how to get them back. They're doing a great work down in New York. And certainly, listen, let's get educated. Let's get equipped. Let's get empowered to get out there and vote and encourage others to do the same thing.
You can get a shirt on the website. They want a My Black Job is to Vote.
That My Black Job is to Vote. We're going to have those shirts. And then Tuesday at 11 a.m., we're going to be at the Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church with Pastor Wright. Clergies are making a clarion call, and we're calling for congregations and communities to get to the poll like never before. And then we've got a few announcements that we're going to be making as to who we believe in, why we believe in them, and why we're encouraging you to join us in our belief. Until next week, this has been the Greg James Community Show saying, remember, your voice matters and your vote counts. So let's make it happen. All right. Thank y'all for joining us.